Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 107 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show is Bruno Souza. Bruno is a Java developer and open source evangelist at Summa Technologies and a cloud expert at Tools Cloud. He is the creator of Code for Life, helping Java developers to improve their careers and work on cool projects with great people. Bruno is also founder and organizer of SouJava, the Brazilian Java User Society, which is one of the world's largest Java user groups, as well as founder of the worldwide Java user groups community, where he has helped in the creation of hundreds of Java user groups worldwide. So Bruno, can you expand on that brief introduction and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Phil. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to be here. Thanks, everyone, for listening. For most of my career, the most important thing that I've been doing, and I think it kind of reflects on the description that you mentioned, is that I've been helping developers to improve their careers, right? This has been a lifelong thing that I've been doing and, creating user groups and helping out developers to do cool projects, working with very complicated projects. Those are all my ways I've been doing to actually help people to become better developers, to work on great projects. Because you know what? I think that in our career, especially as developers, there is this cycle, right? You become better because you work on great projects. And then you only work on great projects when you're a good developer, right? So this cycle, that's the thing that I've been working on. So, all the companies that I worked with, all the projects that I did, my main goal was always, to get developers in whatever situation they are and make them better developers, making them work on better projects to get this positive feedback loop starting.
Bruno, can you share a unique career tip with the IT Career Energizer audience, one they perhaps don't know and should?
There's one thing that's developers and technical people in general, they kind of think that what's important is their hard skills, right? The things that the technology that they know and the language that they program at and the hard things that they do and all the technical skills and abilities. And one thing that I've learned is that, although the technical skills is very, very important because it gets you into the game, right? The things that differentiate the best ones from the industry from the mediocre ones is, the ability to actually talk with people. And I kind of resume this in sharing what you know, right? The ability of you sharing your knowledge, sharing your ideas, being able to present, being able to write, those skills that actually allow you to communicate, those are the ones that actually get you in much better position. The reason for that is that, the technical skills, the first 1 or 2 years of your career, you need to hone in on the technical skills. You have to have some technical skills to get started. But the difference is, as I said before, the thing that gets you better in this industry is actually doing things, right? It's actually working on interesting projects. And the thing that's going to get you working on interesting projects is when people know what it is that you want, when people know what you do, when the people know what you're good at, when you're able to communicate the things that you do, right? So, learning how to communicate well, that can make such a huge difference. And, from everything that I've saw, I kind of like to say that, and some people kind of say, are you sure? I said, the one thing that I see that is guaranteed that will actually get you improved in your career is if you start sharing. Go share through blog posts, go share through social media, go share through presentations, go share through open source, but go share your knowledge. And that's kind of, for me, this is the thing that I see every time when someone starts doing this, their career improves. And sometimes in such a short amount of time, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think you're right. The benefits of putting your thoughts and ideas out there definitely seems to make a big difference.
Yeah, it does make a big difference, and especially because there is a philosopher that said that, you think that you think when you think, but in truth is you think when you speak. And I think this is, there's a lot of developers that use this duck debugging technique that you talk to a rubber duck, the bug that you're having, the problem that you're having, and just by expressing the problem to someone else, right? Even someone that doesn't hear, like a rubber duck, it allows you to get your thoughts in the right place. And then it's lots easier for you to solve the problem. That's the same thing when we're learning something or when we're going through a difficult moment or when we're trying to improve. When we start sharing with others, then we get our thoughts arranged and organize it in a way that kind of pushes our career a lot further. So yes, I totally agree that this is an amazing thing to do.
So Bruno, can you maybe tell us the story of your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
My worst moment, it's clear now, I was in this very cool project, very, very cool project. The customer came to us and they wanted to use open source and they wanted to innovate in a new area. They were already a big company, but they were creating this new team, this new department. They're going to launch on this new area. They wanted to use open source, contribute to open source, kind of do all kinds of innovative technology. And we jump into the project. I mean, we're right there with the customer. We kind of partner with them. We went on full effort to do this great project, and it was the worst project of my life. The customer would change ideas all the time, and nothing was good. He had no idea what he was doing. It was a very, very bad environment of working. People inside the customer itself, they were constantly fighting with each other. They would lie to us most of the time. There was a person that would come to us, agree things with us, and then he would go back to his boss, and the boss would change everything. They would not tell us back what happened. I mean, it was like a really, really bad communication environment. And I would get home, I would cry, my wife would laugh, like, why do I have to get up to go do this, right? And for me, when that happened, I was like, man, I'm never going to work on a project like this again, right? So that's not the type of project I want to work on. And I think that the biggest takeaway of this is that we don't need that. There is this huge myth in our industry that that you need to work on these horrible projects, that you need to get strength, right? And there are projects, there are I'm not sure what other word I could use, but the projects that are evil, right? They destroy your willingness to work. They destroy your willingness to actually try to do anything, right? So for me, anytime that developers are facing with such kind of thing, I see this all the time, right? I was actually in a discussion on Twitter the other day, and people are saying like, oh, there's so many places where developers are treated like they're treated badly. They're just kind of just working on these boring things all the time, and the environment's not good. And I kind of tell people, I say, look, there's a lot of great projects out there, right? If we don't learn how to say, no, I'm not going to compromise my integrity, I'm not going to compromise my beliefs, right? Just because you want this craziness. If we don't learn to do this, what happens is that we're going to keep working on this very, very bad project. But if we learn how to say, look, this is not right, I'm not going to do this, right? Because a lot of times we're the technical people. We know what is right? We know what can be done, right? A lot of those projects is like someone that has to have a brain surgery and start yelling at the surgeon that he's doing it wrong, or he has to do faster, right? And I mean, we know what we're doing, right? So I think we need to be on the top of our game. I think we have to take the responsibility of being our best, right? Know what we're doing. And once we know what we're doing, we need to tell people, look, this is wrong. That's not the way of doing it. And I know because I know what I'm doing, right? So it takes responsibility to do this. And, I do tell people, like, look, there's so many cool projects out there. Why do you have to be stuck with the bad ones, right? So go after great projects.
So Bruno, moving away from your worst IT career moment, can you maybe tell us about your IT career highlight or greatest success?
When I first started in my career, I was still at university, and I was working on some project and everything. And one day, and my dad, he did not want me to work while I was going to university, right? He was an engineer, and he couldn't work I mean, he did work when he was at university, and that was really bad for him because he didn't finish university on time. And in Brazil, you can't really work officially if you don't finish university as an engineer. So he had problems in feeding his family because he took longer to finish university. So he's telling me, no, you shouldn't go through this. Like, go on, finish university first, then you start working. So I kind of stopped working for a while because of his insistence. And then when I was visiting him, and I told him, I said, Dad, this whole thing of not working is not working for me, right? For me to really learn, I need to be working on real projects, on real things. And he was like, no, you shouldn't do it. And we start, how it is, right? You're like a teenager and you start the conversation, all seems fine. And suddenly you're both yelling, right? And so I was yelling with my dad and we're fighting and I got really mad and he got really mad and I kind of slammed the door in his face and all this craziness that I look back and I don't feel proud of that. But then, right in the middle of that discussion, right, the phone rang and it was a friend of mine who I shared an apartment with in Sao Paulo. And he told me, he said, Bruno, Newton Gadgets from Sun Microsystems is looking for a trainee. He said that if you want, the position is yours. So at that moment, right, I had this huge opportunity. My dad is still pissed off with me, right? He sat down his computer to help me write my first resume. So for me, that was such an amazing thing that he did. And honestly, I joined Sun a month later, and a week after I joined Sun, Java was first announced, right? So I know that if my dad had not worked with me on things that I wanted to do, and he insisted on what he wanted to do, what would happen is, I would not get on join Sun at that time, and the Brazilian government would not exist, right? So for me, that lesson was so strong that from that moment on, every time that I work in anything, my main focus is actually to see who in the project, who in the team needs help in their career, needs help to do what they want to do, and then that's what I work with, right? So he talks about my biggest IT career highlights is actually the hundreds of developers that actually they their life, that became open source committers or changed their jobs or changed the history of their projects or became great speakers. I mean, there's hundreds of developers that actually worked with me in some ways or others that improve it. And seeing those people, right, improve and seeing them then calling me back. I actually had a conversation this morning with someone that said, "Bruno, 2 years ago, I was with you in this event, campus party, and the things that you told me there, it completely changed my life. Let me tell you what happened the last 2 years." Having this feedback and seeing people, amazing people in the industry, reaching the heights of their careers and kind of, a lot of them completely eclipsing anything that I did, right? I have friends, they're 100 times better developed than I am, and they're 100 times better speakers than I am. And seeing those people succeed, this is for me what keeps me going, right? So this is for me the highlight of my career. And I don't think it's a one single highlight, but it's like, this is the thing that kind of every day when I get an email like this, I'm like, whoa, man, that's amazing. You succeeded, you did it. And I'm so happy about this. I get very excited about this.
So, Bruno, what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT?
So the thing that excites me is that, when I see people taking responsibility, I see that we have a future, right? I was talking with a good friend of mine and one of the top leaders of the IT industry in Brazil, Silvio Meira. And, it was about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And he told me, he said, Bruno, what the biggest challenge on IT that we have right now? And I said, what it is? And it's like, it's the lack of leadership, right? It's the lack of people taking responsibility for actually getting things done, right? And so for me, that was like an eye opener because when I look around and I see people actually taking responsibility for their projects, when I see developers actually coming in and saying, look, this is something that we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. We're going to work it. I'm going to learn the technology. When we had a discussion the other day with people saying, oh, my company should sponsor all my training. And when you see a lot of other people saying, actually, you know what? Yes, if your company sponsors your training, that's great. That's wonderful. Shares that company. But, growing your career is your responsibility, right? So you can't just dump on your company because if they don't do it, that's not going to happen. So when I see people actually taking this responsibility and taking this thing in their hands and say, I'm going to do it, we're going to do it. So I see that there is a huge future for us in IT, right? Because IT is all about this. It's all about us deciding to go and do it, right? I love software development because software development is something that anything you can think of, you can actually make it, right? So there's so much opportunity, so much possibility, so many things that can be done. But the thing is, someone has to take the responsibility to actually sit down and do it. If people don't do it, nothing's going to happen. But I see this a lot. I see most developers are self-taught. Most developers take a lot of training. Most developers buy books and reading and learning. So there is an earning from the developer community of learning, right? Of actually trying to do things. There's a huge amount of developers that do open source, for example. Open source is a lot of people volunteering their abilities to actually get software moving. So the amount of people actually doing things, that's what excites me, because I see there's a huge future IT because of people taking responsibility. And of course, it's amazing when you have like things like blockchain and artificial intelligence and all the containers discussion, all of those cool things that's going on, the whole cloud revolution, all of those cool things are amazing, right? But they're amazing because there are actually people going and doing. So that's one of the reasons why I work a lot of the open source community, and I've been on the board of the open source initiative a couple of times, and it's because you actually see people kind of taking the things that they love, the things that they want to do, and just kind of going and doing it and putting this on software and putting it available to everyone else. So when I see this kind of things, I'm like, yes, there is a huge future for us because there are people doing things.
We're going to go into the reveal round now. Are you ready for this?
Yes, let's do it.
So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
Okay, so the first thing, my father got me a computer when I was 8. And I think the first thing that I love it was because we had this game and I could actually change the source code of the game. So when I played with my friends, I would win. So that's like, yes, I can do things, right? So that was like my first aha moment, I guess.
So what is the best career advice you've ever received?
I had a boss that one time I wanted to kind of start my own thing, start my own company, start my own product, and I was like, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna do it. And my boss said, "Are you ready to leave? Are you making money? Do you have a product? Is everything set for you to leave?" And I said, "No, I'm gonna start." And he said, "Well, so why are you gonna leave? We still need you, right? So go do that. You have a lot of free time in your life, right? So go do all those ideas, go test them out in your free time, and then when you're ready, you can leave." And for me, that kind of showed me that learning and doing things, and we do a lot of those things for fun, right? So it's not only about doing things that work. We can use the love that we have, the passion that we have, for a lot of other things outside of our working time. And I think this kind of bleed into a lot of other things that I did, and a lot of volunteer work that I did, a lot of the user groups initiatives that I did. All of these were kind of like things that happen at night.
If you were to begin your IT career again right now, what would you do?
I would start by choosing an open source project that I can participate. Something that really interests me, something that I'm very excited about, right? And it could be something related to sports or to art or whatever, or to music, whatever thing that I love to do, right? And so I would work on an open source project, because work, as I said in the beginning, the whole process of becoming a developer is the cycle, right? You have to be good to participate on great projects, but you can only be good if you participate on great projects. So there's this chicken and egg problem, and open source helps you eliminate the chicken and egg problem, because you start working on an amazing project. No one's going to ask you if you can or not. No one is going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to hire you because you're not good enough." Open source will allow you to participate in anything you want to participate, because the only thing that you need to provide is your time, right? So that will give you expertise, hands-on expertise on some cool things, and I'm sure that can really, really get your career moving very fast.
And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
Okay, so right now, what I'm trying to do is that I'm actually on this change, right? Because as I told you, I've been for the last 20 years, I've been helping people to improve their careers, and for me, this has been mostly at nights and weekends and all my free time. I would be doing this, and every time during lunchtime and doing projects, trying to mentor people, but it's not enough to help a lot of people, right? So in the last couple of years, what I'm trying to do right now I'm trying to switch to a more, to actually have, because now I have my own company. I have a consulting company that works very well. I have a cloud company that works well. So now I have more time and more availability to spend full time on working with people to improve their careers. So in terms of my objectives going forward is actually kind of switch from being a mostly technical person to actually embrace this idea of helping people improve their careers and work more on that. So for me, and after this conversation I told you about with Silvio Meira, where he said this is the biggest problem in IT, I'm all for trying to solve big problems, right? So helping people to become leaders of their life, of their projects, of their companies. If I can help a little bit to improve the computer industry by doing this, I'm all for it. So that's my main goal right now.
And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
Oh, that's an easy one, right? Sharing what I know. That's the whole thing that we started with, right? I started sharing. It was totally by accident. I wasn't really planning it. I wasn't really looking for it. But when I start working at Sun, as I told you, Java was released a week after I joined Sun, and and I loved software development, so I got into it very early. And 6 months after that, my boss comes in the room and asks, "Oh, there's some reporters here asking about this Java thing. Does anyone know what that is?" And I'm like, "I know." And so I started on this initiative where every time everyone had to know anything about Java, I was the guy that would go and speak. And it took me a long time to actually learn how to do that. But once I did, it's clear that my career got a completely new meaning, and you helping me work on the most amazing projects. I work in some of the largest Java projects in the world, and I can see that the reason why I got involved with those very large, very sophisticated, very cool projects is because early on I learned how to share. So I think this is the number one technical skill that helped me is like sharing.
So Bruno, can you share a parting piece of career advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
So since sharing is the thing that I think is the most important one, go share. Right now. I mean, get something, because a lot of people want to share, and they think that they need to learn new things so they can share. But the truth is, what you have right now, you that listen to us right now, the knowledge that you have, the project that you work it on, the things that you did in your life, even if you're just starting, right? Everything that you did in your life, what did you try to get started? What are the things that you read last week? Anything that it's shareable, right? You can go and you can help other people if you share this little bit of that and the longer you work, the more things you actually have to do and share. So little advice is look around, see the things that you did, see the things that you learned in the past week, in the past month, the past year, and share that. Share with a friend, share with a coworker, share with a university student. There's so many people that need to listen to your message. So if you just started by sharing with one person, in a little bit, you're going to be sharing more and more with more people.
And finally, what's the best way we can find out more about you and connect with you?
I like to tell people that, I do have this project called Code for Life. And Code for Life is all my best career tips and all my best sharing ideas. I put in this project. So I just did a series of interviews with the top speakers in the Java industry. And, we put everything there. So if you go to code4.life and, you put your name there, you're going to get an email from me. So you're going to have directly access to me. I reply to all the questions that people send me. So that's a great way to contact me. And also, if you prefer, you can do Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. So I'm at BR Java Man on Twitter. And that's an easy way to reach me out.
Bruno, Thank you so much for joining me on the IT Career Energizer podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Phil, it was totally amazing to be here with you. Thanks a lot. This whole effort that you're doing with this Career Energized podcast is great because, this is what we need. We need more and more IT people. They are energized. They are happy with their careers, that, they want to improve and take responsibility for their careers. So I love what you're doing. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to be here.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening in to today's episode and to my guest's career tips, advice and experiences. You'll find a show notes page for today's episode on the IT Career Energizer website, which will be itcareerenergizer.com/e and then the number of today's episode. And a quick reminder that the show has now 3 episodes every week on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So make sure that you are subscribed to the show to get new episodes automatically downloaded. Also, don't forget to join the IT Career Energizer community Facebook group. You'll get to engage with other like-minded people, get to find out more about upcoming guests and other episodes, and can get involved in the future direction of the podcast. It really is a great pleasure to be able to talk to so many inspirational people from across the industry and to be able to share their stories and advice with you. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you're not growing your career, you're slowing your career.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.